Hello and welcome to India's World. Today we are going to discuss Indo-US relations in the context of the visit of American Vice President Joe Biden to India. Biden came to India at a time when economic growth has slowed down. The US believes that this situation, not only in India but in the Asian economies in general, can improve only with the economies opening up themselves for trade and investment. Vice President Biden's visit was also aimed at deepening the strategic relationship with India, especially as the US claims to be rebalancing its interests in the Asia-Pacific. Washington has suggested that India has a crucial role in the US strategy for Asia. What are the messages of Biden's visit? Would the Manmohan Singh government be able to deliver on its promises to the US, or is it already a lame duck government? Where are Indo-US ties headed? And how seriously should India take the claims of the US rebalancing in Asia and India's role in that strategy? To reflect on these issues, I have with me a very distinguished panel of experts. We have with us Ambassador Kanwal Sibal, a formidable diplomat, India's former foreign secretary, and somebody who steered Indo-US relationship in very difficult times. And we have Mr. Seshadri Chari of the Bharatiya Janata Party. He is head of the Foreign Affairs Department of the BJP. And we have with us Professor Biswajit Dhar. He is the Director General of Research and Information Systems for Developing Countries, specialist in trade economics, intellectual property rights, TRIPS and WTO and many other areas. So welcome, gentlemen, to this conversation. Let me begin with you, Ambassador Sibal. A strong message that emerged out of both Secretary John Kerry's visit earlier and now Vice President Joe Biden's visit now is about the need for India to open up and provide US companies a level playing field. How justified is this complaint? Because are Indian policies aimed towards the US alone or US companies alone that the US is complaining of there not being a level playing field?
Well, a few observations. I've just come back from Washington. There is a very negative mood in Washington on the Hill and also on the executive side towards India because they feel that the promise of the relationship has not really been achieved. They had expectations that they will be able to forge a much stronger overall relationship with India, including in the economic field, but that has not happened. So they are pushing for more economic reforms. You would recall that about a year ago or less, President Obama himself had critically spoken about the stalling of reforms in India. So there is a consistent message. But the American argument that the American companies are not being allowed a level playing field, to my mind, does not stand up for scrutiny because it's not as if any of our policies is specifically directed at US companies. If overall the economic reforms have stalled and the economy has not opened up, this can be a reason for complaint by all our partners, not necessarily the United States. And on three specific issues on which the Americans are criticizing us, that is intellectual property rights in the context of the Supreme Court judgment on Novartis or the retrospective tax application of our taxation laws in the case of Vodafone and the nuclear liability legislation. In none of these cases there is any specific action taken against American companies. In fact, in the first two, these are all non-American companies. And the nuclear liability law applies to Russia and France also. So I don't understand what they mean, but I think to sum up, what they really want is now that the China story for them has begun to become sour, and China has become a competitor, they want to build up India, and part of the process of building up India is much greater economic engagement and their presence in India to be able to expand the range of interaction between the two countries, etc. And they feel that that is not happening.
Yeah. Sheshadri, let me ask you a slightly different question. The US has lost its manufacturing capacity to countries like China, so probably also lost its export capacity. They were never bothered about exports. So when the US is asking India to open up, do they want the Indian market to be open for US products to be exported to India? Or are they arguing for a business model such as that of Walmart's, where a US company comes in and sources from all over the world?
I think they are basically looking into the emerging markets. You know, even before the Vice President's visit, as Ambassador Sibal put it, the US President has also been talking about the Asian situation, Asian economy and Asian markets. Now, if you carefully look at the speeches that they have been making for the last 2 or 3 years, the last speech that I came across was that of the National Security Advisor. I mean, national security, you expect the National Security Advisor to talk something about security and strategy and all that. But surprisingly, out of the 5 pillars that he mentioned, 4 are something to do with economics.
5 pillars of US policy.
The 5 pillars of US policy which the NSA mentioned. And one of them very specifically says deepening partnership with emerging economies. And he went further to even name the 2 emerging economies, Indonesia and India. So they are looking at the similar policy. If you remember, the Vice President after India's visit straight went to Singapore. So they are basically interested in doing business with India and doing business with India with US interest. Otherwise,
there's nothing wrong in that, is there?
There is absolutely nothing wrong in if US wants to do business with India. But the whole idea is they are trying to look at India not just as a strategic partner, but as a business partner. And they have said it in so many words. If you see Joe Biden's speech in the Bombay Stock Exchange, I mean, I will only read out 2 or 3 words. First, he says India is no longer an economic island. And then he says, we, that means the US, we want to be your partner in that venture. We want to be, US wants to be a partner of India. He doesn't say you become our partner. He says we want to be your partner.
This is quibbling.
It speaks more about, not about Indian economy, but about the status of the US economy. Yeah, therefore, they are specifically interested, not only that, they are very specifically say US companies are interested in infrastructure and supply chain. So ultimately the bottom line is, give us your market and give us the purchasing capacity of your huge middle class which you have been.
Trade is always a two-way process. It's not as if we are going to hand over our markets to them and their markets will not be open, but we'll discuss that in a minute.
Because one of the other issues which is rankling the United States is our recent decision to give preferential market access in the telecom sector to companies which manufacture in India. Again, this was not directed against US companies, but IBM launched a tremendous campaign against us in the US.
Let me just get Biswajit in. Biswajit, do you agree that when Vice President Biden says that the factors which prevent Indo-US business relationship from reaching its potential are, that India doesn't protect intellectual property rights, it makes a requirement that companies buy local content, it limits FDI, the tax policy is inconsistent. So how important hurdles are these in preventing this relationship from realizing its potential?
No, let me first talk about the India-US trade relations as it has actually developed. And US has now got desperate to get into these emerging markets. And there is I would say there is a sense of urgency bordering on desperation. And it's very clear, it was very clear in the economic downturn that US will not be able to survive with this kind of sort of trade deficits. And Obama made it very clear when he came in that US is going to now try and get access into other markets. And exports, pushing for exports is going to be the new strategy that they're looking for. And as you were mentioning about the manufacturing, yes, it was on a decline. But again, if you look at the past few years, they're seriously trying to revive manufacturing. So the entire strategy is actually changed. And if you look at India-US relations, and just compare our trade relation with that of China. In 2004-05, our imports from the US was about $7 billion, and so was that from China. The level pegging. Today, imports from China is 54 billion, and imports from US is 24 billion. And US is the only country with which India maintains a trade surplus among the largest.
Yeah, but you've not answered my question. I'm going to come back to you. We need to take a break at this point. We'll continue with this discussion after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back. We are discussing the direction of Indo-US relationship. especially in view of the just concluded visit of Vice President Joe Biden of United States. Master Sybil, you wanted to add something to what Biswajit was saying.
No, what I wanted to say was that if you look at what we are discussing under various rubrics with the United States, clean coal technologies, agriculture, etc., etc. It is not very clear to me when the United States wants to export more to India that we should open our market. What do they have in mind? When Kerry came here, he spent most of his time talking about climate change, and in that connection said that the market for these clean technologies, green technologies, is a couple of $1 trillion. So they are looking.
But by clean technology, they mean nuclear technology most of the time.
No. Clean coal technologies,
shale gas,
environment-friendly technologies, a whole range of them. On the agricultural side, it is GM crops, for example. So these are the areas in which we need to change our policies. We need to have legislation. It's a long drawn-out process. It's not something that is going to come about tomorrow. So therefore, when they say they want to price open the Indian market, when they talk about labor reforms, financial and insurance sector reforms, some of them we have done. When they want FDI in multi-brand retail, we have taken some steps in that direction. So I'm not very sure whether America has the capacity really in the short term to export so much to India, even if we open up our market, that it will increase the size of their economic relationship with us, anything close to China.
Okay. Biswajit, let me come to you. Just as US has some concerns with India, India also has concerns about the US market. Now, India has expressed its concerns about the comprehensive immigration reform bill, which will prevent people going there on H-1B visas, will make it restrictive, or L-1 visas, where people go and work for a brief time in American companies and come back. Now, it's been estimated that if this bill, which has already been passed by the Senate, if it's passed by the House and adopted, it will shave off 0.3 to 0.4% of Indian GDP by 2014-2015. And that's been estimated to be about $2.6 billion loss in GDP directly. And if you take the downstream multiplier effects, then it comes to about $6 billion in financial year 2014-2015. So do you think we have effectively communicated to Americans our concern on this?
No, I don't think that we have been able to do that, because this has been going on for a few years, and we have not been able to put a kind of a proper set of arguments in order to counter this, because this has been going on since 2008, and it has been happening in phases. And what I'm more concerned about is the immediate impact of this, because see, if on top of our current account deficit, what is the trade side is really pulling us down. If the invisibles now start becoming problematic because of all this, we are going to be in a serious problem. So what you are saying is the impact a few years down the line. What I'm looking at is an immediate impact, and already things are becoming difficult. But let me also try and respond to what you had mentioning earlier.
But quickly,
yeah. And it is that, of course, there are a lot of other concerns that India has, and one of them is agricultural subsidies.
Yeah.
And this is a major issue, and we have been raising it only in the WTO, but not enough bilaterally.
Yeah. I want to take this to Seshadri. I want to take this to you. Let me ask you a specific question. Do you get the feeling that the US is able to convey its concerns effectively to India? We are unable to do so. Take the case of agricultural products. Yeah. US market is not open to Indian agricultural products. There is a trade policy group which was set up under the Indo-US Strategic Dialogue framework. That trade policy group, where we could raise these issues, has not met for more than 2 years. So what are we doing? We listen to US concerns, which is good because it's a business partner, it's a strategic partner, but they don't seem to be listening to our concerns and opening up their markets.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why they are asking for further negotiations on bilateral investment treaty and all that. They have already mentioned these things, and as Mr. Dhar pointed out, they are now trying to turn into a manufacturing economy. After all these experiments with the last 10 years of their market economy. I mean, during Obama's election, he even mentioned Bangalore by name. So it speaks for all their policy changes which they want to make as far as the economic concerns are concerned. So I think we should have been able to put across our point of view in a more concerned manner,
more effective manner.
More effectively, and at the same time get the benefit of the economic partnership that the US is looking towards us. But unfortunately, I think we have not been able to put it across in that manner.
Okay. Ambassador Sibal, quickly I want to ask you that the trade between US and India grew by more than 1000% between 1990 and 2012. And after that we hear that the Indian market is protectionist. Now these figures speak for themselves. It's not a protectionist market. Or do you think the US is making a more generic argument and saying that if you opened up further, trade would go up because Joe Biden says it can go up from 100 billion a year to 500 billion without specifying a time frame?
See, their relationship with China, as I mentioned, has entered into difficulty. That market has become saturated. There is a huge trade deficit. Now, India stands out as a huge market. Look at the size of our market. It's tremendous. So this is the next El Dorado in a sense for American companies, if they can price open the Indian market. I mean, we should not take an ideological view, but we can't simply follow the Chinese pattern because we are structured differently. We can't give them the same kind of opportunities that China has given them. So, but to the extent that the trade figures themselves show, American exports to India have grown phenomenally. The overall bilateral trade is $62 billion in goods. And if you include services, $100 billion. They are the single largest trading investment partner that we have in the world. So there is growth in terms of our economic relationship. But they want to accelerate the process, and their companies are pressing so hard, the political class, and the political class takes up those issues very strongly with the government of India. And hence we have this impression that somehow things are very wrong in India and we're not giving a playing field to the United States.
We need to take a break at this juncture. We'll be back again with this interesting discussion after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back. We are discussing the direction of Indo-US relations. Ambassador Sibal, you wanted to say something?
No, I said the other grouse they have with us is that we will not be able to pass the university bill, education bill, or foreign education providers bill. Now, that again, it's not as if we are deliberately doing it because we want to stop the American universities from coming and operating in India. It's not the case. We have some domestic issues with regard to the passing of this legislation. And again, it's nothing to do with manufacturing.
Okay, no, but the question I really wanted to ask you was, you said earlier that there's a feeling on the Hill in Washington that fatigue has set into the relationship. Now, do you think when Prime Minister Manmohan Singh goes to Washington or to America, I think he's going to the UN General Assembly and meets President Obama in the third week of September, do you think he will be able to recharge the relationship? What is it that can be done between now and September that the Prime Minister can showcase and say, look, this is what we are doing to boost the relationship?
Well, one thing what we have done is this preferential market access business. We are reviewing that. That will give them give them some satisfaction. Secretary Kerry, in fact, was bold enough to say that by September, we would be able to sign some kind of an agreement with the United States, with the Westinghouse company. I don't think that's going to happen.
For the nuclear power plant in Gujarat.
Nuclear power plant in Gujarat. There is an early works agreement that has been discussed. Maybe that can be signed, but that is something very perfunctory. But other than this, apart from reassuring President Obama about the direction of our policies and highlighting to him some of the economic reform steps that we have taken, I can't see him saying anything that would recharge the relationship, as you say.
Do you think the relationship can be recharged?
Well, you know, I think there are lots of potholes on the way, and let me just mention two of them. One is, and though both of these are playing out in the international context. The first is that US has taken an initiative to do this information technology agreement, the second part of it, where they want big bang liberalization of the IT products. India is not willing to play ball, and
the second one,
and the second one is on environmental goods and services. Now, President Obama has put that as a very important agenda in the WTO, and he wants to do a deal with a set of countries. and again India has major reservations. So I think that one will have to look at the bilateral relations in the context of what is happening.
Okay. Sheshadri, let me ask you something slightly different. Biden in his speech at Mumbai Stock Exchange and perhaps in his meetings with the Prime Minister and others here tried to allay Indian fears about the reconciliation dialogue with the Taliban in Afghanistan. Now, what would America need to do to convince India that it should support such a dialogue, considering that the Haqqani network, which was responsible for bombing Indian embassy in Kabul, is also part of the dialogue?
Yeah, I think on all the issues regarding India-Pakistan relations and India-Afghanistan relations also, they have not been very clear on this issue. He says each country will have to set its relations right with China. And then he says we are going to talk to Taliban, but we will address the concerns of India. But he has not been able to address the concerns of India, and they have been talking to Taliban. And they have been talking to Taliban, and they have been talking to Pakistan also. But in spite of India airing its concerns about talking to Taliban and also setting up a situation in Afghanistan where Pakistan is the biggest hurdle for India-Afghanistan relationship. On the one hand, they say India is doing so much in Afghanistan.
So Indian concerns remain where they are.
Indian concerns remain, and they have not been able to address, and even on the issue of terrorism, which we have raised so many times, they still consider, they still talk about there is no difference between, no contradiction in strategic autonomy and strategic partnership. This is the maximum that they could say without explaining what they really mean. So I don't think they have delivered, the US has been able to really allay our fears as far as talking with Taliban is concerned or tackling the issue of terrorism.
Okay. Well, Sibyl, let me talk to you about rebalancing. They talk of rebalancing towards Asia Pacific. Earlier it was called pivot to Asia. How should India position itself, considering that the US itself doesn't seem too sure about what it wants to do in the region, whether it is capable of rebalancing, whether it has the wherewithal to rebalance. And you had Secretary John Kerry's confirmation hearings where he himself questioned this notion. Yeah. So how should India view it, and why should we complicate our relationship with China because US wants to rebalance in the region?
Well, two levels at which we can look at this. One is that we should have no quarrel with the US pivot towards Asia, because at the end of it, it serves our larger strategic interests. If the United States maintains its presence and strengthens its presence, because behind all the public rhetoric, the fact is that they are concerned about China's rise and the strategic competition that China is now confronting the United States with. Second is, how much do we publicly endorse this? I think we should be careful, because there are limits to which the United States can challenge China, because their financial and economic interdependence is such that their capacity to confront China is limited, and they won't do it because larger interests will come into play. So therefore, we should not become a tool in their hands in their larger policy of containing China and complicating our relationship with China, as you say, without we being sure what would be the end result in terms of the actual benefits that we could draw from this. But as I said, we should strengthen our relations with Japan, with Australia, with Vietnam, with Indonesia, with some of these countries which are having problems with China in the South China Sea. That we should do, because that indirectly reinforces their pivot towards, US pivot towards Asia. And we are working on the same page, but not necessarily publicly avowing that we are doing this. And we should continue to have expanded naval exercises with the United States.
Okay, Bishwajit, the Chinese economy has grown at a phenomenal pace. Of course, it's slowing down now, and the financial surpluses are huge. So anything that happens in China affects the world economy and will also affect the US economy. So therefore, do you agree with Ambassador Sibyl that US degrees of freedom in trying to limit China are not huge? They would not do anything that would impact the international economy or impact their own economy.
Yeah, yes and no, because see, the other thing that the US is now doing is this Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement, and we all know that this is trying to sort of rein in the Chinese. China has also been expressing its interest to join TPP, but they have not been getting the right kind of signals. So the US is actually walking on two legs. On the one hand, this whole pivot to Asia argument, that they're really seriously doing this partnership. They now have 11 countries, and Japan has recently joined TPP, and they want to do the deal by the end of the year. Now, this is going to be the real test case. If the TPP comes through, and US is able to sort of bring in its own sort of policies to bear on the Asia Pacific region, I think this is going to mean a lot in terms of the changing relationship in Asia Pacific.
I want to ask you,
they are also talking about Asian institutions like ASEAN and other things. So this is where I think I wanted to say that they are quitting Afghanistan, of course, but if you read the Vice President's message, one very important sentence that he has said is, we are not quitting the region. So they quit Afghanistan, but they make their position in the region much stronger. That is what
we are running out of time, but I want one last word from you, Ambassador Sibal. No two countries, however friendly, can have an identity of views on international issues. And Joe Biden, probably recognizing this, said in Bombay that there is no contradiction between strategic autonomy and a strategic partnership. Global powers are capable of both. But would you agree that this is true even when the two powers, that is US and India, the powers are asymmetric? They're not equal global powers.
Well, this is the first time that I've heard endorsement of our policy of strategic autonomy from an American commentator and the Vice President for that matter. This is very interesting, which means that they don't want to get into this controversy, which is raging inside our country, that those who are favoring strategic autonomy actually are working against a closer relationship with the United States, and this is our non-aligned traditional thinking that is coming to the fore. The United States is now conveying to us that they have no problem if you want to have strategic autonomy, because does not conflict with strategic partnership with the United States, because as part of our strategic autonomy, we can decide to have close relations with the United States. Why not?
Okay. Now, we've run out of time. Thank you very much for analyzing Indo-US ties and Vice President Joe Biden's visit for our viewers. Thank you very much. That's all we have for you today. We'll be back again next week with another interesting issue. Till then, goodbye.